What's going on, guys? Welcome back. Hope you guys are all having a great day. I finally did it. I bought some USD AEONs. These are the USD AEON Basic 60s. Before I start, I just want to say a huge thank you to all my subscribers, supporters, people who watch this channel, commented. Thank you guys so much. Because of you, I have been able to purchase some skates that I've been looking forward to purchasing for some time now. And without the money that I've been making off of YouTube ad revenue, I would have not been able to purchase these skates. Just because my wife doesn't let me buy stuff unless there's a real need for it. And I have too many skates, as you already know, to really need another pair of aggressive skates. I know what you guys are thinking. Oh my God, not another USD AEON review. I know, these are old skates. Well, these are the new ones, but they've been out for a while, and you guys know the drill. You guys know what USD AEONs are about. But I wanted to make this because there are a lot of people that are still getting back into blading right now, and I just wanted to make sure that, you know, coming from a zero knowledge of what USD AEON is, that they understand what it is after this video. Before we jump into this overview, I just want to quickly show you guys the box. And I just want to show you the box because I am such a huge fan. I'm a graphic designer by trade, and I'm a huge fan of branding and just the whole feeling and emotion that you can get with visuals on products. And these guys, USD has knocked it out of the park. When I got this box in the mail, I was super stoked. It's dirty and banged up, I know, but just as doing a lot of package design and stuff in my life, I just love how clean this matte black with just the gloss finish for the logo is just so sick. I love it. I just feel like I needed to show it because it's probably one of the coolest boxes that skates have come in for me in a long time. Since we're talking about the box, I just want to show you quickly what came in the box with the skates. You got a basic tiny little Allen key, which, you know, might be nice if you're like 5 years old. I'm not sure why they put this in here, to be honest. But this guy right here, nice little blade tool, has a bearing popper right here, nice little grip. I enjoy these blade tools much better than just getting, you know, an Allen key or two in a box. So props to you, USD, for throwing that in the box with these skates. Awesome stuff. All right, so let's get into the overview of these skates. Straight off the bat, guys, I don't know about you, but these are probably the cleanest, sickest looking modern skate design on the market, I have to say. Some of you guys might be asking, why didn't you go with the Pro model? I honestly think this black with the subtle white highlights is probably the coolest looking AEON to date, or one of the coolest looking AEONs. The whole design of the skate, the shape, and just the highlights, the pops of white are just super hot. Let's just jump into the skate and start breaking it down as we go. Starting at the top, let's look at this cuff here. So this cuff, it's such a deep V-cut cuff. Really cool, really excited to see if that really adds some mobility to my skating. It is a lower cuff. I feel like it's a lot lower than some other skates, or maybe it's just the fact that these liners are a bit taller. I'm not sure. It does just feel pretty low profile. This area and this area feels very low profile. So we'll see what that does. Here's the strap. Nothing to write home about. It's not the greatest. It's kind of cheap, but that being said, I'm okay with it as long as it holds together for long enough. Ooh, you know what? Oh, sweet. On a budget or lower end skate, usually these bolts right here, or these screws, are actually rivets, and you have to drill those out to replace the straps. Here, they just straight up give you the ability to take off the strap and replace it whenever you want, which huge plus because these are not the greatest straps, and I could see these kind of getting worn out faster than others. I am coming from the M12, which is the nicest strap and buckle on the market, so anything less than that now just throws me off a little bit. Another plus here, I see the cuff bolt has a Allen key hole in it, so I'm assuming that these cuffs are removable, which is another plus in a lower end or budget skate. Let's move on down here. Let's check out the laces here. The laces are nothing to write home about, just the standard metal eyelets. On top of that, you also have this lace hook here for instead of a 45-degree strap. The previous models of the USD AEONs did have a 45-degree strap, but I heard that there was lots of negative review on that because it just kind of popped open or fell apart really easily. So in my opinion, I'm more excited to see a hook like this if it's strong and not going to bend on me. I would much rather relace this around this hook to suck my heel back and get that 45-degree strap suction there. I don't know if that was another reason that these are basic models because they don't have a 45-degree strap, but I'm okay with this. My M12s don't have a 45-degree strap, and I'm totally fine in those. So the laces they come with, they say they are wax talkie laces. Yeah, they're nice. They're probably some of the nicer laces I've seen coming on stock skates, to be honest. If we keep moving down the skate here, this is where this skate starts becoming its own thing compared to all the other aggressive skates on the market. These sole plates, the plates that you grind on, are a part of this boot, as well as this frame down here is also a part of the sole plate and boot. So this frame, sole plate, and boot are all one piece. Some of you might say, well, that kind of sucks because aren't aggressive skates you're supposed to go grinding on and chew up, and I want to be able to replace my frame if that gets destroyed before my sole plate or my boot, or I want to switch all that out. Yes, that's a valid point, but I think the pros outweigh that con. And there is, for I think $100, $75, $100, something like that, you can replace this whole shell and sole plate frame. So really, it is more expensive. You have to basically replace the whole thing than just like a frame or a sole plate, but it is doable. You don't have to buy a whole new skate. But the pros outweigh that con, I believe. The first one, the fact that a unibody or one-piece boot and frame system is going to be very strong and rigid. It's going to have great power transfer because there's no pieces that can kind of move around on you. There's no bolts bolting them together. It's just one solid piece, which is really cool. The second is the fact that it's lighter weight. This skate is super lightweight. I would say probably as light or maybe even lighter than my M12s. It's a nice light skate. I think the bigger reason is down below the sole plate here. And by having a unibody or one piece, what you can do, usually for the people that don't know, frames for aggressive skates are mounted with what's called the UFS system. The UFS system has bolts that go about right here over this wheel and about right here over this wheel. This frame, the way it is, being 60 millimeters flat, wouldn't be able to work on a UFS because this wheel wouldn't be able to roll because that bolt would be right where this wheel has to be rolling. What companies do with UFS frames is they will either make smaller wheels and separate them out, or you'll have to roll anti-rocker, which means a smaller wheel in these two spots to have a bigger space here still. So to get around that, USD was smart and was like, well, let's just make something that we can engineer and get rid of those UFS bolts and make the frame setup, skate setup, the exact way that we want it. And that is the fact that this is a flat setup, flat 60, so good size wheels on an aggressive frame, and still have this giant H-block space for grinding. This is huge. I mean, this is like 4 fingers width, including the wheel bite protection area. That's huge. That's like the size of my Wish grind space. And the Wish frame is like twice as tall as this in order to make that happen. And the last thing that I'm really excited about, and the reason I purchased these are able to have a 60 mil wheel, short frame height like it's a 56 mil wheel or whatever, and still have a huge sole plate. And that combination allows me to finally get boot down without any kind of effort on grinds on Royales, absolutely huge for me. And that's really the reason I purchased these, because I wanted to get a skate that I didn't sacrifice my speed and maneuverability with a 4-down 60mm wheel setup. Also had the grind space size of like my Wish frames, and had a huge short frame and huge sole plate that I could easily just rock over and get boot down for awesome, secure sliding feeling. Because when I'm doing Royales and I'm not boot down on my M12s, it is the scariest feeling ever, because you are not supported on that grind. So yeah, that out of the way, let's keep rolling down. The wheels are a 6190A. A little different looking. As you can see, the hub is quite large on a smaller wheel. It almost like reminds me of a miniature big wheel skate. That takes away a lot of urethane on these wheels, which isn't going to give it quite as much life, I don't think. But I think that's probably going to give it a little bit more speed, because the core is larger, making for a harder, more rigid wheel. Something similar to, I don't know if you've heard of the Famous wheels, which have a bigger metal aluminum core. So kind of cool. Interested to see if I notice any difference on a bigger core wheel, aggressive wheel. I'm not sure what's inside these wheels. I know they're wicked, as you can see. Power Slides Bearing Company. So that's the outside of the boot. Let's go ahead and take a look at the liners. All right, so first off, we got a short, kind of, I would say not the most heavy duty skate strap for carrying. Again, don't pull on these when you're putting your skates on, because you will rip that stitching right there, and yeah, it just will be no good. As we look at this area, we have a nice low V-cut area in the liner, which matches the back of the cuff. So that's awesome. The padding in here is really nice, stiff, which I like. The outside material is almost a suede-y, like fake leather kind of feeling. It feels really cool. The tongue has a nice contrast with that texture. Speaking of the tongue, not a huge fan of tongues that get all kind of folded up and gross feeling like this in here, and kind of folded, together. It's nice and stiff up here and supportive, but down here it gets a little kind of floppy and gross. Not a huge fan of this area. Then as you go down even further, Law was actually talking about that this section was actually giving him some pressure point on the top of his foot. Now that I have this in my hands, I can see why. These things kind of just getting all pinched almost and kind of rolling over itself inside this shell. And then this getting kind of pushed back, as you can see right there. I mean, if you took away this part of the liner, I would say this looks like a pretty premium liner. If we move down even further into the toe box area, we got our neoprene toe box, which goes all the way around our foot. Great to have for those people with wider feet, 4 feet, because it allows their toes to kind of push out a little bit and not feel the pressure of the liner kind of wrapping their toes together. Awesome stuff to have. Not a huge deal for me because I do have more of a narrow foot. But the bottom, this is cool. I haven't really seen this on a liner before, is this whole area below is also neoprene. So not quite sure what that's gonna do, but the rest of the bottom is just a slick vinyl-y feeling stuff. I'm not sure what it is. There is the insole. Nothing to write home about at all. Not too surprised here. The skate is, like I said, more of a on the budget end. So, it's not a bad liner, just nothing to it. Very thin, very stiff. These are things that I always switch out anyways. So yeah, there's that. You see these in a lot of skates. It's just a basically piece of vinyl or plastic. These are usually in there to save the bottom of your liner from getting kind of chewed up from the bolts, from either the sole plate or the UFS bolts from the frame. That's not a thing in these skates because there are no bolts. It's just one unibody design. So why is this in here? Well, that's because the unibody design actually has 4 holes in the bottom of the skate. And the reason that is because the only way that 60 millimeter wheels could ride this close to the bottom of a skate is to have those holes in the base of the boot. So these wheels actually, the tops of the wheels stick up into the base of the boot. And you can see that here, if I can get the light on it for you. There you go. You can kind of see that wheel up in there. So yeah, this thing is very important to keep in the bottom of your boot, because without this, your skate's gonna get very dirty very, very quick. So the last thing we need to talk about, if I put this away, is the shock absorber. This thing is the thickest shock absorber I have seen. It's huge. Look at that thing. It's giant. So for like my back, my knees, hopefully this will really help deaden some of that vibration. So after this lengthy overview of this skate, as you can see, I'm very excited for them. Let's put them back together and get out there and start rolling. right, so what do I think about these USD AEON 60 basic skates? Well, let's take a look, starting with the pros. The first pro, from the very start when I opened up this box, I noticed how lightweight these things were. They are probably the lightest weight skate. I haven't weighed them, but they're probably even lighter than my M12s. The lightweightness doesn't take away from the quality and durability of these things. These things are super stiff and rigid and can look to be able to take a beating. So the second pro, the fact that they have interchangeable cuff bolts as well as interchangeable buckles. This is kind of a lower end price range for an aggressive skate, and a lot of skates in this lower end price range don't come with a removable buckle. Sometimes they're just riveted in, so you have to drill out that rivet to replace the buckle on the skate if it ever breaks. As well as the cuff, it's just a nice thing to be able to take that cuff off, replace it. The big reason I think that they had to do this with this skate is because the frame is attached to the shell of the boot, which means if you ever need to replace the shell or the frame, you need to be able to get that cuff bolt off and buy a whole new shell frame unit in order to replace that. So makes sense that it's a part of the skate's DNA. And to add on to that unibody construction, the other pro you get is just amazing power transfer, as well as the sound that you get with just no bolts. Well, there's some bolts, but there's no frame bolts, and just the solid connection of frame and boot is amazing for power transfer. Even though it is still a plastic frame and boot, it's a great power transfer skate, and that sound that you get with that just feels and sounds so solid when you land stuff, and when you're rolling, it sounds great. So the next pro is the fact that this has a huge modern sole as well as a really big H-block space for hitting those grinds. It is an amazing skate. When you lock a grind, you lock a grind. As well as it's a really easy skate to get boot down on those H-block tricks like farfs and royales and whatnot. It's just a really good grinder blader skate. And to add to that, the fact that this is a 60 millimeter flat setup, so we got 4 60 millimeter wheels stuck onto your skate, and it still has that low profile on that frame and low ride height, adds to the fact that you can lock those grinds so well. It's so easy in getting boot down. On top of that, landing tricks and whatnot, it's just that lower center of gravity. It's amazing for stability. The cool thing is they can get all this into this skate, get that low frame, still have full 60 flat, so you don't lose that speed and maneuverability. I mean, it's really the best of both worlds for keeping that speed and cruising, pumping bowls, and being able to hit up all your grinds on. So, you know, they got something right here. This unibody construction is really something. So the next pro is something that I really enjoy. It's such a small thing, but it really, for me, for an older blader, really saves my knees and my joints and my back. And that is that absolutely ginormous shock absorber that they stuck in here. This is a flat boot, so there's no raised heel. In my M12s, there is a raised heel, so I can really only put in a very little bit of shock absorption in that thing before my foot's just like way too high in my heel. This boot's a flat boot, so you can add as much or as little shock absorption as you want. And the great thing is these things come with a huge shock absorber. Really like the fact that I can still be heel raised when I'm riding, that feeling, and have a huge shock absorber under my foot. And the last pro for these, you know, the boot just fits well. Even though the liner's not the greatest, just the liner and boot together, it's a really comfy skate. And on top of that, the fact that it is a little wider than my M12s, and while I do like a tighter skate, this isn't too wide where, you know, I feel like I'm losing that little nuance in when I'm getting on edge or finding my grind and stuff. I don't feel sloppy in them at all. Like they feel like a glove, but just a loose, comfy glove, if that makes any sense. I really think they're gonna fit a wider range of feet. They're a comfy skate. All right, so that's a long list of pros. Let's check out the cons. So for the first con, I will admit that over many different times skating these, I have felt that the plastic used in the shell of the boot and the frame, I don't know if it's the plastic or just the lack of like siphon or whatever it is, like they just felt a little sluggish on grinds. I really felt that when I was on angle iron, when there was more surface area touching the frames and sole plate. That being said, once I got a good waxing on stuff, it wasn't really an issue, but I couldn't just go to a park and try to push through grinds as much as I could, say on my other skates that I've skated at these parks. It just felt a little slower and kind of grippier than my other sole plates and frames. So there's that. The second con, or I guess would just be a nice to have, is a 45-degree strap. On this version of the AEON Basics, they decided to go away with the 45-degree strap and just have a little bracket on the side to kind of either have an option to lace your laces around it and pull a little tighter. That does work, and I found that it's, I wasn't missing the 45-degree strap totally, but that being said, it would be nice to have a 45-degree strap. I know the pro versions have this, so I guess it's not really a con, it's just it's a thing I could miss on the skate. The next con, the top buckle and the strap are a little thin and kind of on the cheaper side. I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue, but I could see these breaking a lot faster than some other buckles and straps that I've ridden before. The good news is you can replace these. These aren't that expensive, and they're not riveted to the boot, so they're easy to replace. So that's the good news. The next con, while I totally understand the reason why this is a con, and I take the pros over this con more than this con is. Okay, I'm just going to say it. It would be nice to be able to swap frames and try other frames on an aggressive skate. That being said, I think the cons totally outweigh the fact that you can't change your frame and therefore wheel setup. In addition to this con, the fact that you can't change your frames on the skate means you really have to love your frame that you have on the skate. And while I do really enjoy this frame for round rails and coping, I've noticed it is a bit more challenging, at least coming from the large wish frame on angle iron. What I noticed on angle iron is a lot more wheel bite. There is a little bit of wheel bite protection on this frame, but if you don't want to get wheel bite, especially if you're skating the stock 4 down, you really have to get over on edge so that you're not in the area of like getting wheel bite, or you really need to switch out those center wheels or all wheels for a different profile wheel so that they're more rounded bullet style, so you don't have to get so low and angled to avoid that wheel bite. I'm not saying I dislike the frame necessarily. All I'm saying is the fact that coming from my large wish frames, I literally couldn't stick to anything, and that includes angle iron. So you just don't go into this skate thinking that you can buy this skate with this frame that's attached to it, and it has a huge H block and it's going to solve all your problems, and you're never going to get wheel bite, because it will happen. It can, and it probably will happen, especially on angle iron and ledges. Another con, the liner, while it has pretty much all the bells and whistles that you would pretty much want in a liner, especially in a budget level skate, there's still stuff to be desired about this liner. The two main things is the tongue down kind of in the part where it kind of goes to your forefoot is just a little bit scrunchy and kind of not stiff and doesn't hold its shape as well as I would like, as well as where the tongue stitches into the actual toe box of the liner. That whole stitching area thing gets really scrunched, and I could see if you had a bigger, fuller, wider and kind of taller foot, fuller volume foot, that could push on the top of your toes and just not feel great. I know Lawrence talked about that in one of his reviews of these skates. I didn't feel it so much because I don't have such a wide and full volume foot, so your mileage may vary there, but just know that the liners, while aren't bad, they're not the best liners. And really the last con I could find with these skates, the wheels. While I enjoyed the wheels, I feel like these things are going to wear out so quick. That large core and a small wheel makes for really great power transfer and solid, hard, fast roll, but that leaves hardly any urethane around the core of the wheel. So, if you're taking these out street skating or anything other than like kind of smooth concrete in parks, I don't think these wheels are going to last all that long for you. So kind of a bummer. I almost would have wished they would have stuck with just kind of your typical larger urethane classic 60 mil wheels. If your shell breaks or your frame, you've grinded the heck out of it, or your sole plate, you've ground through, or it's just there's a piece on here that's broken or not functioning anymore. Unfortunately, you can't just replace that one piece like your boot, your sole plate, or your frame. You got to replace all three at once because they're all one piece. That being said, it's actually not a bad deal for all those three pieces in one, but it is more expensive than, say, just a frame or just a sole plate or just a shell. So there is that too. All right, so those are the cons. Let's take a look at who these skates are for. So these skates are for the aggressive skater, everywhere from the beginner all the way to the expert. I really think these are a great recommendation for beginners, like Law says. Reason being, they have a great modern sole kit, very low ride height, so the frame's very low, which makes for very easy to learn how to lock grinds for beginners, as well as they're still a flat 60 millimeter wheel setup, which makes it much easier for beginners to skate around in and not feel that train tracksy kind of feeling. Usually people are more, I would say it's easier to get into a pair of skates that you can actually just lean and turn than leaning and fall over because the wheels won't actually come around for you. So those two things make it a great entry level aggressive skate for all you people coming back to blading or for the first time aggressive skaters out there. All right, so who are these skates not for? So really, I can only think of one type of skater these aren't for, and that is for the aggressive skater that just likes to tinker with their skates and likes to try out new frames, new wheel sizes and setups, the whole 9 yards, just likes to customize their gear. These are definitely not for you because guess what? It's a unibody design and construction, so there really isn't much customization here other than maybe some laces and a liner or so, maybe some wheels. So if you're looking to make a super custom skate, look elsewhere. All right, so for my final thoughts and rating, if you're looking for an aggressive skate that is amazing looking and performs just as well as it looks, really look no further. If you have special needs for skates, say like you want to try out certain frames or wheel sizes and combinations, then yeah, this might not be for you. But if you're just looking for the best bang for the buck and the best skate right out of the box to start aggressive skating, these are the skates for you, hands down. So if you do end up purchasing these skates, I recommend getting your shoe size. The way they size these, they have a dual fit liner in there, so they have kind of a 2 size increments. I wear a size 9 shoe. I got these in the size 8-9 US men's. So with all that said, it comes down to the rating. And well, these are a great skate. They do have a few things that, aren't perfect about them, and they don't have, the customization of a normal aggressive skate. So that all taken into consideration, I'm going to give these skates 3.75 wheels out of 4. If you guys think I missed anything on the pros and cons about the skate, I want to hear it. I want everyone that hits this video to get really all the ins and outs of what the skate's about so they can make their best judgment of purchasing the skate. So sound off in the comments below. Let's let them know what they're getting into. Quick little shout out. I just want to say Corey English, just recently he saw that I and some other YouTubers got these AEONs, and so he put up a video about the 5 things to know about AEONs or something. I'll link in the description below. But basically, he just goes in detail about all the small little minute things like the bolts and changing out your wheels and all sorts of different things to make the AEON skate the best that they possibly can. These are things that I wouldn't realize until probably another year from now, or at least a few more months of skating on these. But the great news is, he's the man. He's been skating on these for a while. He's a great inline skater. If you haven't checked his channel out, go over now. I'll link it in the description below. If you guys have any questions about this skate that I just didn't answer here, please feel free to comment in the comments below as well. If you guys like this video, you guys know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, and make sure you ring that bell so you don't miss any of these uploads. And until next time, guys, just keep rolling.